yes, we've all gone bananas. The GOP's MAGA bananas today. Oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas today. Oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas today.
You're supposed to do that when you're an editor. You're supposed to sync it. But
Don't you have that thing that...
The clapper, the slate. The slate. The slate. Okay, Echo, can you hear me, Grady?
I can hear you.
All right. Ho! Hey! Hey, welcome to Dudes Process. I'm Matt DeGennaro.
And I'm Grady Thrasher.
And we're just two dudes processing what the hell happened in the last election and the regime we're living under today.
We're trying to process what is happening to us as a country.
As a country, as to see what the hell just happened and stuff. So what you been thinking about, Grady?
Well, you know, we started this thing a couple of months ago, actually, I think, and we've been trying to determine what is a fair and balanced way to assess our current president and his administration,
right,
and the policies that he's pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to be even-handed,
yeah,
you know, and let people decide. And then we decided that that's unbelievably the wrong way to approach it, because we're dealing with basically a person that is insane.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, and I don't play it on TV or anything. But I am, I think, a reasonable human being.
I would say you're a reasonable human being, yes.
And that's my opinion.
But you were saying that, so we were using a rational approach,
right,
to an irrational human being.
Right.
If you do that, it's not really...
Whatever opinions you make are always too good.
Right. Because they're based in logic.
Right.
You can't use logic into an illogical situation. Yeah. It's like playing basketball on a hockey rink.
Well, you think historically, if someone makes it all the way to the presidency and goes through the elections and the processes that the people have vetted that person so that they are at least a responsible human being.
Right.
And we either have had a great change in personality of our country and the voters,
right,
or Trump has somehow made us think that he is the best person that should be in the office of the presidency.
By repeating it,
yeah,
in perpetuity.
And I'm not making any excuses for our former president. I don't think he was that effective in anything, but he was at least quiet for the last year or so.
That's true.
And we have a personality now in the presidency for the second time. For the first time, fortunately, he didn't know what he's doing, doing, but he learned the power of the presidency. Right. So, although he believes that he's actually in his third term right now,
that's true.
He does know how to do outrageous things and get away with it.
Right.
So, we were trying to find, out something that good that he's done, and we can still do that. But watching the news, the outrageous things he does are too often and too much of the headlines that you can't dig down, or you just can't keep up with it.
Right.
In fact, I'm thinking that it's bad for my mental health just to...
It probably is.
Just to watch him strut around.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's you, an audience member in the show.
But I do like one thing I saw in the news today. he was having a press conference, and a lady reporter from, I think from NBC, said, I have heard people calling you the taco president when it comes to tariffs. And taco stands for Trump always chickens out. And
What? Is that true?
yeah, this is true. This was this
A reporter
morning.
asked her,
Right.
asked him,
Yeah, if he had heard himself called the taco president, standing for Trump always chickens out. Well, of course, that's what he does. He says he's going to put a 50% tariff on here, or 150%,
right.
and then, the stock market goes down, and then he says, "Oh no, I'm not going to do that." And the stock market goes up. If the stock market had gone up, would he have kept that, threat of tariffs? But anyway, he was very offended by the question, and he said, "This is called negotiation," because he has referred to himself as the world's greatest negotiator.
Yes.
So anyway, the taco president was the best thing I've heard him called. I've heard him been called everything from an asshole to a motherfucker.
Right.
And we've gone through that.
We've covered that.
We can't prove that those are anything other than criticisms
Right.
that can't,
We can't say that's actually true.
Right.
But you can say people have said.
Right. Yeah, that is true. A lot of people have.
A lot of people have said.
referred to
People
it
are saying.
in those terms.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'd never heard taco before.
I never heard taco either.
Except, you think about it, his skin looks a lot like a taco.
We're going to go back to the skin. Yeah,
Yeah, well-
his skin actually has the U.
The last time we got together, we saw that you couldn't distinguish his skin close up from
Right.
that of a navel orange.
Maybe do a taco now.
And I don't know if taco would be a compliment or whether navel orange is. I think both of them are just descriptive.
Right. It's neither an insult or a let's see,
Right,
it's an
yeah,
insult to
it's
tacos, because tacos are delicious.
Well, it depends on what's in the taco.
It's true too. It's true too. He could have. This could be a shit taco. It's pretty much a shit taco. Maybe she could have asked him. Mr. President, I heard you being referred to as the shit taco, and see what his response would have been. But I never heard that until a press reporter brings this up to him.
This was
today.
This was this morning on the news.
Yeah.
Right? And he told her that was a very nasty question.
I'm sure he did. He loves it. Normal questions, he says they're nasty.
Well, I think it is a question. It was a legitimate question that everybody's referring to as a taco.
Right.
And I would have said, well, why is that? Does he look like a taco?
Right. That's what I didn't know it was.
It's really an
Acronym.
for Trump always chickens out.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't chicken out. I always win, and
always
then I
win.
don't have to pursue it any further.
Yeah.
But I guess if you say you're going to put 100% tariff on someone,
Right.
and then agree to 50% or 20%,
Right.
You're still a winner, right?
Right. Because I made the problem, but I corrected it also.
And I negotiated it.
And I negotiated and look at me.
And no one knows that I'm going to go lower.
That's right. I'm just playing poker.
With China, I went higher to 150%.
Right.
And of course, China basically just said, screw you, and
Yeah.
that's where it stands.
Yeah. It's like the price is motherfucking right. It goes higher, he goes lower. But what's that thing with Europe, Grady? He said he pulled back on, there was going to be tariffs on the European Union.
On everything from the European Union. And he's just put it off for 90 days or something like that. He hasn't, decided what's in the taco yet.
Yeah. I guess he got to fill the taco.
Right.
Boy, wouldn't that be a good world if he actually was filling tacos?
That's right.
He should be a taco. But then again, that would be the most disturbing thing to see Donald Trump touch your food. He's got this just skeevy. You know who died who was really skeevy looking?
And he died?
No, yeah, and he died recently. Did you see his picture? He was 90-something. Death is a horrible thing, and nobody should die. But do you know Chuck Rangel from New York, the senator?
Oh, gosh. That was a long time
Yeah.
ago.
I guess
in his 90s?
Because in the 90s, yeah. But he had that look, too, that was just, when I was a kid, because I guess I saw him a lot on the news, he just looks dirty. He looks like Trump looks like when you look at Trump, you're like, I don't want him near my food. Charles Rangel, who I'm sure was a very nice man, but he doesn't look like anybody you would want near your food.
You wouldn't want him to wrangle with your rights, right?
I don't want him to wrangle with my rights or my onion rings or anything like that. So what else went on, Grady? What else you got?
Well, other than Trump looking like a taco,
Yeah.
but really is being called the taco president because
Right.
it's an acronym
Yeah.
for Trump always chickens out.
Trump always chickens out.
That was the only meaningful news that I saw this morning.
Right.
The market was down. It's my belief, of course, this is my belief without proof, that what Trump does is he says something goofy like he's going to put a 50% tariff on everything from Europe.
Right.
And it astonishes the market, and the market goes down.
Right.
And he tells all of his buddies and family, I'm gonna change it tomorrow. So buy the stock, buy the dip.
Which that was your job. You were formerly the securities.
I was a low-level lawyer with the SEC in the 1960s.
So, but isn't that the definition of insider trading?
Yeah, well, it is. It is a form where the president whispers in your ear, I'm going to say something that will make the market go down, buy the stock, and then I'll say something that makes it go up.
That seems blatantly illegal.
I think he's just discovered that he can change the market direction with a tweet, which is
right.
Sad.
Well, that's what he did last time, though, too. He said something like, "Oh, it's a good time to buy."
Yeah, right.
And then he took off the tariffs the next day or something.
That's right.
But he takes off tariffs, he puts them on. It's the taco president.
Yeah, but that implies that he's a chicken because he gets criticized when he puts them on,
and so then takes off.
He takes them off.
Right.
But he didn't have to put them on to begin with.
Right. It's the threat.
So far, all he's accomplished is he's screwed up our relationship with our allies in the world. I mean, we might need to put tariffs on certain things. I don't know that, but should we need to, it wouldn't be, this I'm the greatest negotiator in the world. You would say something. You'd give a speech to Congress or something like, we need to encourage businesses to manufacture, cars or whatever here in the U.S. and we should find some way to incentivize American companies to come back to them, make them in America.
Right.
Make America manufacturably great manufacturer again. We could do a mama or something.
Mama.
Yeah.
It's your mama.
Make America manufacture again.
Oh, great. You want to? Okay.
Yeah, that may be we ought to run for president on that.
But the idea is, I mean, if it was 1952 or whatever, I mean, it seems like a good idea to have jobs at home. It seems like a very quaint idea, but is it actually possible today with China?
Well, it's not possible to do it cheaply. Yeah. And it's getting less and less possible to do it cheaply in China because they are developing a middle class that expect, real live wage increases and so forth.
That's interesting, yeah.
But still, things can be manufactured in China a lot more cheaply than they can in the U.S. And So do you want people to work harder and get paid less
Right.
here in America,
Yeah.
or work with a good hourly wage, but then make stuff that they can't afford to buy?
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
Henry Ford faced that dilemma when he started building his Ford automobiles on an assembly line
Right.
where he could make more cars in a day or get more productivity. And even though he could make a car for $500 or $600, a Model T, he realized that no one could buy a Model T if they were making $1 an hour. So basically, he raised his employees to something around $5 an hour, which cost him money, but they all started buying his cars.
That's
Yeah.
funny as
Yeah.
hell, huh? That's interesting. I was paying my workers shit. Who the hell's going to buy my car?
Right.
Let me raise it. Well, that's kind of works out for
And he sort of made the Model T Ford
Yeah.
available to more of a middle class back then.
Right. That's very interesting.
But Ford was an asshole too.
Well, I think he was,
I don't
yeah.
know that for sure, but I've read that he
It's
was.
pretty well documented. I think it's pretty well documented that he was actually an anti-Semite. He
Yeah.
was a horrible person, but like an actual anti-Semite, not like today.
But he was a real billionaire. He was America's first.
Isn't that funny? So he's like
billionaire.
the
Yeah.
first kind of Bezos and Musk and stuff.
Right.
Maybe you can only be an asshole if you're a crazy billionaire. Maybe that's
Well,
inherent.
maybe I can't claim that I'm a billionaire.
Yeah.
But some people may think I'm an asshole. Anyway.
Okay, we can't prove that.
So there's a lot of opinion in our program. But
Right.
That's who we are.
It's America, great.
We are opinion people.
Right. We are opinion people.
Right.
That's what we got.
And
We got
maybe
that.
we're even opinionated.
We're opinionated people with our own, and like assholes. What's
Right.
it? Everybody's got one.
Make America whatever. I do have a question
Yes.
for the Trump administration, and
Okay.
please, if you are in the Trump administration, feel free to send me an email or
Okay.
text or anything with your answer. But what is the greatness that you want to make America again? When was that before?
Right.
Was America great when we went into the Great Depression? That was another great era, the Great Depression. And that was brought on by the Republicans believing the government should let economics, just let the market do what it's going to do.
Right.
And of course, we had 25% unemployment. We had bread lines, and we had people starving. And the Democrats came in, FDR, and came up with things like Social Security and Medicaid.
Right.
Wasn't called Medicaid back then, but it was a form of welfare.
Oh, goodness.
and,
Yeah. The dirty word.
And welfare was a dirty word, but then when people started making actual more money, the economy started to improve.
Right.
And of course, when World War II started,
Yeah.
we needed to build airplanes and tanks and
Right.
stuff like that. So the government had to borrow money to get that going. So national debt was not frowned upon because we had to catch up with the belligerent forces that.
So is that when the debt started? Was it after World War II?
Well, the significant debt, I mean, it's always been a thing that we're better off if we don't have a lot of debt that
Right.
we're paying interest on, because you're just paying interest because it's, like when you buy a car,
Right.
you pay about 3 times
Right.
what it costs
Which is horrible.
because you're borrowing the money.
Right.
And so it's always been a good thing to have a balanced budget.
Right.
But if you, and then of course, it depends on what your politics are. You know, when we got into the Gulf War by invading Iraq, then all of a sudden the Republicans were saying that deficits don't matter.
Right.
You know,
Go crazy.
yeah.
Buy all
So
the
I
tanks.
never could figure out how they justified that.
Yeah.
But we do have a huge debt, and
Yeah.
we're paying a good bit of our tax income now just on interest
On the debt, yeah.
So it would be, but usually the only way to pay the debt down is to increase taxes on those who can afford to pay it.
Right.
And that actually happened when Clinton came into office, but he's not the one that increased the taxes. It was the Bush before him that increased taxes after saying no new taxes.
I remember that reading my lips. Yeah.
And so he got voted out of office, but the nation ended up with a balanced budget for a brief moment
Right.
in time. It's so it's interesting, but the real issue is we don't need to give tax cuts to the rich.
Right. Well, Grady, I'm sorry I distracted you. Your whole thing was you had a question towards the Trump administration, which was based in when was America great again?
Yes, well, that's more of a general question.
Yeah.
When was it great? It was great when we stepped in and with our productive power
Right.
basically helped win World War II. We helped Russia, which was an interesting ally back then, and Great Britain and France. France had basically given up and had been taken over. And it was our productive capability and the fact that we were not being bombed every day like Britain and other would-be allies. But we helped win World War II. I think we were great in doing that. Then we helped at least Western Europe, not the Europe that was claimed by Russia, not Eastern Europe, but we helped Western Europe bring their economies back to life after being pretty much destroyed. I think we were pretty great there. And all of that was under Democratic presidents. We did have Eisenhower as a Republican, but he wasn't. He played a lot of golf. Put it that way. He liked to go into Augusta, and so then we had Democrats in again for a short while. We have been pretty great regardless since World War II as a country, but because we had a feeling of greatness because of freedom and because we had a feeling of compassion toward the world. I don't know that we're great now, that we resent the world and think that they're taking advantage of us. You know, we still have the world's greatest economy, which Trump seems to be doing the hardest to try to ruin that economy, but then that's my opinion.
Well, but you can actually see how the economy is doing, and it's not doing good.
But I still ask the MAGA folks, what greatness are you referring to? Are you referring to back when African American people were excluded from restaurants because they were black, or that they couldn't attend certain schools? I don't think that was very great.
Right.
are they referring to when the taxes were 90% on people that made a lot of money, the income taxes?
Right.
And that's what they were toward the end of World War II.
Right.
Very, very high rates. I just would like a little clarification on when was the Great America that they're referring to.
What specific time?
Yeah.
When was, yes. What do you mean by it?
Yeah,
Make America?
if they refer to when, it was when Republicans
Right.
were in power.
Right.
They could pick out Lincoln's administration,
Right.
which was Republican,
Yeah.
and made the South Democrat forever for at least the next 100 years.
Right.
Until the Republicans said, you know, we can be right-wing assholes in the South, but as Republicans and beat the Democrats.
Yeah.
And they succeeded in doing that. So now the South is solidly Republican in most cases.
That's the origin of how that happened.
Yeah, it's just that, you know, the South was solidly Democratic because Lincoln was a Republican.
Right.
And it stayed that way for almost 100 years.
Sure.
And then the Republicans said, you know, there's a way we can beat the Democrats in the South because the Democrats are becoming socialist.
Yeah.
And we can just be right-wing and conservative and get the Democrats, the Southern Democrats, to become Republicans. And they did. They succeeded.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. But I still don't know when we had that greatness that the MAGA people...
That's what will be your question to
the
administration or the supporters.
Were we greater before 1920 when women were given a vote?
Yeah.
Were we greater before the Civil War when black men were given the vote?
Right.
And slavery was abolished?
Yeah.
There have been times when we were great, and I think it was during the World War II eras, but I can't remember. And the eras when we helped Europe and Japan rebuild after they were destroyed. And every time the American society was confirmed in their liberties, I think is great.
Yeah.
That we don't have a president who thinks only about himself.
Right.
Until recently.
Yeah. Well, like I was telling you, he actually wore his campaigning hat with his slogan to address West Point. Now that he just not, that's a person who's supposed to head the military, has his own swag on his head. Yeah. It's just fucking tacky.
Yeah, tacky. You know,
it's very tacky. And this is coming from a person who loves bad taste, but that's just disgusting. And I'm not a fan of the military and everything, but Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Take the fucking stupid ass hat off.
Well, he is a tacky person.
Yeah.
Really. And that looks like either an orange or a taco.
Right.
But, I mean, I guess he can't help it, but it seems to attract a lot of votes.
Right.
And so I think that America is getting less great as we go forward because if they can elect someone like Trump as president twice, there's something wrong with the personality of the American electorate.
That's the country we live in. You got this guy. Well, you saw The Apprentice too, right? You were talking about the movie, The Apprentice.
Yeah, the movie where the young Trump is basically tutored by the lawyer.
Roy Cohn,
Roy Cohn, That's, that was an interesting movie. But I guess we we never knew that he would actually run and be elected as president.
That's the shocking thing, isn't it?
He was good at. I don't even know if he was good at building buildings and stuff.
Who the hell knows? But one thing he excels at is self promotion.
Right.
He's the biggest hype man.
Putting
Right.
his name on the buildings and
Right, like what Muhammad Ali used to do in jest. I'm the greatest, even though he would play himself up and hype himself up. Muhammad Ali was an actual athlete boxer who accomplished
I'm
something.
reaching for water like little Marco did, in that speech that he gave.
What happened in the?
Well, he was giving a speech. This was real early on. This was before the Trump's first term or during, and
right.
He was giving a speech in response to the Democrats' I guess State of the Union or something like that.
Right.
And it was
right.
the first time he had a full TV audience.
Yeah.
And he needed water, but someone had told him that you keep your eye on the camera. So
that's funny as hell.
So he was doing like this, trying to find his water about half of his speech, and finally found it. But the press sort of made fun of him.
Right. I gotta look that up.
And then Trump was calling him Little Marco at the time.
Why the hell is he calling him Little Marco? Is it
I don't know.
Penis thing or?
Well, I think Trump was real embarrassed about his small hands. And I don't know.
He's
why.
projecting. It's a form of projection,
Right.
I guess.
Right.
Little Marco.
Yeah.
I like he called George Stephanopoulos George Slopodopoulos.
Did Little Marco call him that?
No, Trump called him that. That was one of his actual. That was instead of calling. Usually he does little or he does
I see.
tiny.
That was his demeaning.
That was his demeaning term, but it wasn't Little George or it's crooked. What do I call? Crooked
Hillary.
Crooked Hillary, Little Marco, loser thing. That's why when I heard George Slopodopoulos, I'm like, that's actually kind of funny. That you took some thought into that.
Yeah, we could start referring to our naval president, and we thought he was had been a sailor. Because he looks like a naval orange.
He looks like it. Maybe he could be the sailor.
But then I guess a navel is also a belly button, right?
That's true.
And I think the oranges have that belly button looking thing.
This imagery is so disturbing.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you put in visuals in my head that I do not want there. Good Lord.
Well, we've decided that Trump is such a disgusting person to be our president that we're just going to just have no compunction about
treat him with the respect he deserves,
or treat him with the respect that he gives anybody else.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Loser, scum. I like when scumbag. The most funniest thing. I wish I should have bought the friggin' iPad. Is the Memorial Day tweet that starts off with Happy Memorial Day. Yeah. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 letters until you get Happy Memorial Day to the scum Democrats also, and it just goes into
God, is that right?
Yeah. Oh, it's an actual tweet or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Truth. And but it's funny because there's only four or five words that are normal. It's kind of like the Happy Memorial Day, you fucking assholes to all the. It's like a person with bipolar. But that's what we have. That's the country we live in now.
And that was the purpose of this segment of due to process.
Right.
We've just lost any hope for due process of law.
Yes. We have to process.
We're trying to process this.
Right.
This creature who is our president.
Yeah, amongst ourselves. That's all we can do, Grady.
That's right.
That's all we can do. Well, I think that's it here for Dude Process.
We'll let you know when we have another insight into Dude Process.
Absolutely. This is Grady Thrasher. It would be nice if you said my name.
And you're this...
It would be nice. I'm going to do it again because I thought that was a cute way to end it instead of saying I'm this or say. So I'm going to say, thank you again, Dude's Process. Thank you again. That's the end of our show. This is Grady Thrasher.
And this is Matt DeGennaro.
Yes, and we'll see you next time.
Oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas. Today, oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas. Today.